It's the Speak Easy podcast where we talk about the behind the scenes of what it means to be the successfully paid speaker and author. Your health is a huge part of it. You guys know that we had an episode previously where we talked about rest is really a huge part of the success journey. And so many times, this is one of the things that people leave off of the topic of being a successful speaker or successful author. They leave rest off of it. They leave eating healthy off of it. Can I tell you guys something? I eat awful. Like it's gotten really bad and I'm paying more attention to it now. But as a speaker, I'm always traveling. Well, when you travel, where do you eat? Everywhere. Always going out to events, always at somebody's restaurant, always eating something, picking up something on the quote unquote go as we're flying through the airport. So I know that for me, I've gained maybe about a good 20 pounds in about a year's time. And I know that I'm like, okay, yeah, no, now it's time to get back on track and get my mindset together. I done already called up the personal trainer, like, help. Because this is definitely what needs to happen. And I'm super excited about our guest today. Hello, Kimberly.
Hello.
I'm excited because, you know, we started talking a little bit beforehand about, you know, the health and wellness industry and just what's been going on, especially with this government shutdown, guys. Let's be real. Let's be honest. With the government shutdown, that means that there's a potential for us to eat even worse down the line. We'll talk about that, though. So, Kimberly, introduce yourself to the audience. Let them know a little bit about you, and then we'll dive into today's topic.
All right. Well, I am Kimberly Joy Morgan. I am a wife and a mom. I love that to say that first because that's a big thing for me, my family. But I am a certified health coach. I'm a life coach, business coach. I am an author of a book called Share the Joy, 52 Weeks to Abundant Health. And I'm also a union actor. So a lot of people don't know that about me, but that was what I did before pre-kids. So I was a SAG and after actress as well. I love working with women, especially on changing their mindset when it comes to health and wellness, because it's not just about the food that we put in our mouths, but it's what we're doing with our lives that feeds us. And so I kind of address the whole person when I'm working with clients and not just, like, and I'm saying not to say that dietitians don't address the whole person, but I'm looking at more than just the food that we put in our mouths. So.
Definitely, because we have to understand that this is a journey. Mm-hmm. And not only is it a journey, there needs to be a strategy involved. Because let's be honest. How many of us have woken up and said, you know what, I'm done and I'm going to eat healthy and I'm going to work out every day and then I'm going to look like Vivica Fox and then I'm going to be amazing. And then 2 days later, we're like, I don't want to get out of bed and I just want to have a Snickers for breakfast. Like,
that is the truth. But that's when I ask my clients, well, we got to talk about our primary food, what's really feeding us, because it's not the stuff we're putting in our mouth, but what in our life is not satisfying. And, there are these areas that we look at specifically, like our career and our spirituality, our relationships and our physical activity, our home environment, things like that. And we start saying what's going on in those areas. And when we're dissatisfied there, we tend to run to the secondary food, which is a drug. We don't look at it that way, but the FDA is the Food and Drug Administration. They might as well just say the DDA, the Drug Administration, because that's what it is.
And you know what? I have to definitely agree with you there, because we've seen that listen, we're snackers, #foodie. We see all of these different things and we're like, oh, we want to try this. Portion control is horrible in the States. Mm-hmm. Horrific.
Yes, it is.
When we look at that, and think about how much we're really eating compared to how much we should eat. So with all of this stuff going on and having this honest conversation about health and wellness, what is going to be the first thing that you would tell somebody they need to sit down and really look at? I know we said we got to look at our relationship with the food and, kind of why, but what's going to be that first thing that we need to work on?
You're talking about within food, like the secondary food that we put in our mouth.
Mm-hmm.
I always tell people water. I know it sounds like it's the craziest thing in the world, but if you are hydrated, like literally hydrated, that means drinking half your body weight in ounces a day. You are going to find that you are not going to be as hungry as you think that you are. A lot of times we mistake our hunger. It's really thirst. It's that we're thirsty. We're not actually hungry. So I tell people, if you've had a meal, it's one thing if you fasted, from the night and it's not 12 o'clock in the afternoon. Yeah, you're hungry. You need to eat. But if you're literally just ate at 10:30 and you're looking at 11:30, like I'm going to eat again, I say, no, drink like 8 to 16 ounces of water and then find out whether or not you're actually quote unquote hungry. And then the other question I say to ask people is if you would say, do I want broccoli? Because if you're hungry, broccoli actually is something that you seem like you want to probably eat. There's a difference between I just want a snack. If you are truly hungry, like you have not eaten, a bowl of vegetable soup actually sounds great just because you're hungry. And so we have mistaken those hunger cues, real hunger cues, for something else. And so I always tell people, start with your water first. And then after that, I always say eliminate. First thing, if you want to eliminate something, is sugar. Those two. And I know that
a single tear starts to fall down your face.
Right down your eye. But that's the drug. That's the thing, is that drug, that sugar is literally if you take an actual scan of a brain of someone who is using cocaine and someone who is eating sugar, the exact same fire of dopamine is the exact same. So within the brain, it's more addictive. They've done tests on people and also on like lab rats to look at the brain of what's happening. And literally the rats will go towards sugar before they go to cocaine.
Wow. Now, see, that's not something that we often hear. We hear, sugar is bad for you. And then it's interesting because they'll say, oh, sugar is bad for you. And then say, here, try this sugar substitute.
That's horrible. That's worse. I tell my kids all the time when they're like, well, Ma, can we get the sugar-free gum? I was like, no, you can't. You cannot get the sugar. I would much rather you have sugar, like gum packed full of sugar, than sugar-free gum. So that is definitely, or people will say, oh, I got my kids sugar-free popsicles. I'm like, please give them some real sugar. Like if you can't not do it, just give them the real
stuff. Just don't do that. Don't do it to yourself.
Don't do that. Yeah, no, because the chemicals, like literally your body can actually recognize sugar as an actual substance and do something with it. But sugar-free literally will cause the insulin spikes, but you actually don't have the calories to burn. And it creates this very strange dichotomy in the body in which it messes up your endocrine system and your hormones. And it also, the chemicals have been linked, many of the artificial sweeteners, to causing cancer in the body. So I always tell people I would much prefer, and yes, of course, sugar can cause diabetes, and it can cause heart attacks, and it can cause, cholesterol issues, because it's more linked to that than anything else. If you go and trace it back to most of the diseases in the body, people think, oh, well, a heart attack came from too much fat. That's not true. It's mostly sugar in the body. And Alzheimer's is linked to too much sugar. So there are so many links that they're finding, and you can trace most of it back to sugar.
Now, I know that for me, maybe within the last few years was when I started doing more shopping at the farmer's market as opposed to always going to a regular market. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I had, because maybe about a year and a half ago or so, I had a scare where I thought I had cancer. I had breast cancer. Mm-hmm. And so, going through that whole thing and hearing the different things that needed to be changed. And so I went and I said, okay, well, I'm going to go eat healthier. I'm going to do this. And we're big tea drinkers in my home. Mm-hmm. So I said, okay, well, let's go get some new tea and, figure this out. And I was sitting in the tea aisle, like with my eyes crossed, because some of the tea, one of the ingredients is sugar. And I was like, wait, but then we put sugar in it. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh my goodness, what have I been doing to me and my family? So yeah. I literally had to start reading labels. So let's talk about that part, because that's one of the things that scares people when it comes to health and wellness is, oh my goodness, now I have to start reading labels and know what all of these big words are that I did not go to school to learn about.
You don't have to know what the big words are. That's what I tell my clients all the time. You know why you don't have to know what the big words are? Because that means you need to put the product down. That's a chemical. So if you can recognize egg, if you can recognize, almond, if you can recognize sugar, salt, you know what these words are, you're like, okay, and guess what? Your body, your kidney, your liver, your pancreas, it'll recognize it. But when you're looking at monocycle, and it says all of that, and and it says, most of the time those are fancy words for sugars and just chemicals that your body doesn't know, or even he's seeing something like artificial flavors or even natural flavors. Here's a big kicker for you guys. Reading the label that says natural flavor does not mean that it's healthy. Because a natural flavor can literally be arsenic because it is natural. It can be beaver anus, and that's in something because it's natural. So I'm trying to tell you right now that's an indication to stay far, far away. If they're not going to tell you what's in the product, and they're going to put, because the FDA allows them to only put a certain amount of ingredients on there, it doesn't have to even be, I think it's like either 60 or 55% of what's in the product has to be there. You're missing a huge percentage of what could actually be in that product. So make sure that when you're reading labels that you can actually read them. And if you can't, you put it down. A rule of thumb in my house when my kids pick it up, number one, if you can't read it, and number two, if it has more than 5 or 6 ingredients, I'm going to have to give you approval for it. So when they go in the store, they'll go in the aisles. I have a 10 and a 12-year-old, and they may want to try something new. They don't even bring it to the cart anymore because they know if it has more than 6 ingredients and they can't read it, I'm going to say no. So that's a rule of thumb. Yeah. So, they bring me an apple. What's the ingredient? The apple. It's a whole food. The whole food makes it up. So when you start getting into boxed foods, and I'm not saying that all boxed foods are bad, but I'm just saying that you have to be able to read what the label says, and can you interpret that, and how many ingredients are there?
Now, I often tell people, I'm like, okay, well, the health and wellness industry is a big industry, guys. We have to understand that, yes, when we look at the back of a label, there are things that have been allowed. There are things that have been okayed that are not necessarily healthy for us, that are not necessarily things that are going to put us at our best version of us. Yes. And so with that being said, then now we have to have these honest conversations. One of the things you just said was beaver what?
Beaver anus. Beaver butt.
And when you said it, I'm going to tell you why my whole face just cringed, because I'm in a health and wellness community here on Facebook. And one of the things that she got me to stop doing maybe about 2 years ago now was buying seasonings from the dollar store. Because a lot of times it had beaver urine and all this other stuff in it. And when she said it, and I was like, well wait, how do we get beaver urine in seasonings? That doesn't go together. That doesn't, that's not on the back of the package.
Exactly, no.
And so when you start learning these different things, it definitely is like an aha moment. It's a moment that you really have to step back and say, okay, what did I just hear? That's why I had her repeat it for you guys.
Yes.
What did I just hear? Yes, she did say beaver anus. That part.
Yes, and they do have a list of ingredients and natural, like you can actually see. And the reason why I said it is because that was one of the, when I was reading it, I was like, what in the world? Who would put that in a product? Just like you would say, what kind of flavoring does that bring? But it is one of those things where people would be like, oh, well, it's like chitterlings or something like that. It gives it, and you're just like, who was the first person who decided to try that? And then think that that's a piece that needs to be added to something that needs to be packaged for the whole world. But because they can say natural ingredients or natural flavoring, it is natural.
It's natural.
It wasn't created in a lab. And so, but it's not something that I want to consume. So a lot of times when I see those natural flavorings or, of course everyone says, oh, definitely don't touch the artificial flavorings. But artificial flavorings might actually be better than some of the natural flavorings if you know what's happening and what the word natural means for that.
Exactly. So. If you know exactly what's going into it, then now you're starting to think, oh, Okay, so natural didn't mean like I grew it.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And that's what they want you to think, is that it's like, is it organic or is it whatever? They're making it sound like it's healthy. The industry has a great way of putting something on a package and having it look fresh and clean with a blue or a green sprout, and the lettering and the wording, the fonts look great, and it looks like it's a healthy product because that's what they're meant to do. They're meant to sell you that this is going to be a healthy product, but it's not in any way, shape, or form. And you turn it over on the back of the box and you start reading it and you're like, this is absolutely crazy. So I try to tell people all the time, if it has more than 5 or 6 ingredients and you cannot pronounce them, stay away until maybe you take a picture of the back of the box, go home and Google every ingredient and see if it really is something that you want. And maybe even ask yourself, does this ingredient, is it linked to any particular illness? And you'll start, you can literally put that in. You can put the ingredient and type in cancer and see that, or pull up PubMed and type in what the ingredient is and see what some of the indications are. And you'll be like, I think I'm gonna pass on that.
Now that's something that people don't really talk about too. I guess even though everybody, it's funny because when we have a symptom of something, we'll run to Google and put in that symptom and we're dying from cancer. Mm-hmm. But in all actuality, we have to understand that, okay, there's some other things we need to pay attention to. So that being one, what would you say is something else we need to really pay attention to when going and looking at our food?
You're saying paying attention to, I would say, number one, have you ever looked to see the Dirty Dozen, Clean 15? Staying within that realm and range is really important. Also taking a look sometimes at your product, like as far as there's an app that I like to use called Think Dirty. That's great. Or Fujicate. So using things like that to help you understand what foods you can use or you don't have to use is really important. So hopefully those are things that you would understand.
Definitely. So, okay, so we have that part of it. And now, right now, we're going through this whole situation with the government shutdown. Mm-hmm. And people are like spazzing out. Some people don't know, what to think of it, or they don't realize how far it really stretches. And when it comes to the health and wellness industry, we can see the effects of it now, but it's going to be even worse later. And so we talked about how there are all of these recipients of food stamps and government assistance who are going to be getting extra food stamps this month, or they've already received extra food stamps this month because they don't know if they're going to get them for next month. And there's not really a training on, hey, this is how you should use your food stamps in order for them to last you the longest. And here are the healthy options for you to have. Because let's be honest, when we think about healthy options, a lot of times that means we're going to shop a little bit more often because we're buying things that don't have that long shelf life because they don't have all those extra
preservatives.
Right. All the nasty stuff. So with that being said, what would be that thing? What would you tell them? What would be the list, or like, let's say the top 3 things that you would tell them to have on that shopping list, since now you're getting extra food stamps and you're going to have this, and you got to make it stretch possibly for 2, maybe even longer, because we don't know how long this government shutdown is going to last. So what would be some key staple, things to put on that shopping list?
Well, one of the things that I would say is making sure you're buying frozen. That's a big, because you can buy frozen, in a sense, organic. And when I talk about the economic discrimination of what we get in grocery stores, what we get places. So I always say, you can get frozen mixed vegetables that are large bags that will allow you to create stews. I tell people all the time, our mamas used to know how to stretch things, right? Because you could get a quote unquote, roasted chicken or a chicken for roasting, and you can You can boil that chicken. You can use the meat. You can make a stew. Then you can actually use the bones to create bone broth to create more. So I always tell people the more you can actually use of things. And so stews go a long, long way. Vegetables, different staples as far as brown rice is concerned, big things like that can help feed a family. And it's actually a whole food. You know, you have a whole grain and you're not just getting something like rice-a-roni or something in a box kind of thing. So really like real vegetables. And I said, vegetables don't have the shelf life. I don't advise people going to canned foods. I know the convenience is nice, but with the BPA lining of the can and the fact that canned food is actually dead food. It has no nutritional value whatsoever. If you try to get a frequency reading of it, it's dead. So you put something dead in your body, it brings your frequency level down. And a healthy human body vibrates at 62 megahertz. I don't want anything else bringing me down. When I have a cold, my megahertz are about 58 to 57. So I don't want food that's coming into me that's dead. So those, like I said, getting the things that are frozen vegetables, the staples of rice, buy whole chickens. Don't buy chickens that's already cut up. You'll look the price per whole chicken. So you learn how to chop up your own chicken, your own meat. A lot of times I also say that, you can get cuts of meat at I know a lot of times it's different for different neighborhoods, but if you can actually get to a butcher, they can give you a different cut that's a little bit cheaper than another or brought in a different way that you're able to stretch for longer periods of time. Understanding how to cook. Like if you cook a chicken, like roasted chicken, and you have chicken left over, you can cut that up and create the stew that I was talking about by adding the rice. So I always say the more whole foods and like not the cut up chicken, but the whole chicken or the whole beef roast or whatever it is that you're doing is going to stretch longer than getting these convenient slices and things like that people bring in. I also would say, bigger bags of things like oranges and apples go a long way and are not always that expensive. You can find things like that. But I'm all about whole foods. So you're never going to have me say, oh yeah, let's go, stock up on mac and cheese. That's really concentrating on what can I do. And we did it. Our ancestors did it all the time. We didn't have the conveniences and the things that were there. So what were the foods that we used and how can I create, like I said, especially in this winter time, stew will go a long way. Like I made a pot the other day and we had it, I think 2.5 meals.
Yeah. And that's what I was thinking of too. I was thinking of chili and
beans.
If you do like a white chili, you can do a regular chili and those types of things. And then we think about, I know for me, we're big on pasta. So, recently I started going and doing some research and getting other types of pastas. And I just found some Oriental pasta that was made from sweet potatoes and, different things like that. So for us, rice and pasta are always in our
It goes along. When you are in a situation like that, it goes a long way. I also would say, and this is kind of, but it's on the part of just being a holistically healthy person, is that if you really are watching this and you really are like, how can I better myself? And you are in a place where you have, government assistance for that. And that's no problem whatsoever. There are people that want to help you. There are other, I know someone personally. So if you want to reach out to me, and I will also give the resource to you of a woman that I know personally who does a free thing on how to budget and I know multiple people who do that. You can find ways to learn the information you need to learn. She literally paid off $73 or 78, I can't remember the number, $1,000 worth of debt in 3 years. And she's teaching people how to do that. So this woman knows what she's talking about and how to make it work. And that's why I say the resources are there if you want them. So if you've got these food stamps and you need help, I would say join like a group like she has where they're walking people through stuff like that.
That's literally a great option that I think most people wouldn't even suggest, in this time. Because again, that go-to is, okay, let me go get a couple boxes of ramen. Let me go get, let me go get some beefaronis, some raviolis, and let me go get these different things. And even when I think about, canned soup versus you making your own homemade soups.
It's cheaper. Every day. You literally, you could get a whole chicken, and I'm just going to give it a whole chicken. You could get like a bone broth or just regular chicken stock or something like that. You can get a a whole thing of rice. You can get the frozen bag of, carrots and some onion, and onions are cheap. Chop them up, throw them in there, put some celery in it and some seasoning, and you have pretty much chicken and rice soup, and it will be a whole lot that you'll be able, and you can freeze stuff like that if you don't feel like you're going to eat it all and you're tired of it or whatever. But let me tell you, are you hungry, or are you just looking for, to fill that palate with other things? But that kind of thing will stretch for a long, long way. Or taking some ground turkey and chopping it up and making, like you said, a chili of some sort with some beans and rice. You really, really can make food go a long way especially if it's whole food.
Definitely, a topic that needed to be had. I was telling Kimberly that, I've watched different shows. I guess, and I'm that family member that will see something and then tell the whole rest of the family, oh my goodness, you got to watch this. You got to watch this. Mm-hmm. And then they come back to me and go, why did you make me watch this? But another effect of, that's going on because of the government shutdown is that, there's a part of the FDA that is not fully functional right now. So all of our foods that are coming in, which if you are somebody that's watched Rotten, or if you're somebody that does your research, you know that we have a lot of food that is brought into the States from different places. And I was, talking about how on Rotten, they were talking about, the honey and what's going on with, all the added stuff that's going into honey. And you really have to check the back of your honey because it may not be 100% honey. And, they cut it with stuff to make it, to make more in order to be able to sell more. And it's just craziness. But this is really stuff that the majority of us, we're like this.
Yep. I don't want to see it, but they don't even want, people don't want to see it, because then you got to do something about it, or you just have to say you really are just I don't care. So it's hard. It's like they say, ignorance is bliss, but ignorance is killing us. That's the problem, is that, we perish for a lack of knowledge. I tell people all the time, and if you know something, you can at least do something about it. And it's, when now I can make a choice of a better choice here or there, or understand that I'm not going to make this choice as often in my health, going forward.
And that's the point right there, is that once you can make a better choice. And people perish for a lack of knowledge. Lack of knowledge, people perish. I can't say it and pound it into your head enough. People perish for a lack of knowledge. And the reality is always going to be that you're going to have those that don't want to know, or those that they don't know how to find out this information, where to go and look for it. And now with Netflix, with the internet, with, we have so many options where we can get the information just about anywhere. But where would you tell them would be your top place to go to when it comes to doing the research on these different things and the different FDA standards and what we're really feeding our children and feeding ourselves?
Well, of course, I do a segment on YouTube called Share the Joy. So you can always follow me, and I'm always kind of talking and bringing points out to people. I tend to, some of my favorite people to look at are Food Babe, which I don't know if you know about her or not, but she's great. I also enjoy looking at Dr. Axe and Dr. Mercola. So those are the three sources that a lot of times when I'm trying to see what's being said, what's right, what's valid, because there's a lot out there. But those are some of the resources that I will go to. Also, Wellness Mama does a good job of pulling together different tips and information as well. So those would probably be my 4 most reputable go-tos that I would say take a look at. Because like I said, there's a lot of stuff out there, but not everything is vetted. And so I tend to have an okay, time listening and looking at that information. Mind Body Green is also a good site to go to, but you have to kind of dig through stuff to get, these other ones are more really on just specific health and wellness information.
Definitely. And so before we finish out, I want to also say, we always talk about what's been a blunder. I always ask every guest, what's been a blunder in your journey up to this point? What's been something that you look back on and you say, yeah, maybe I shouldn't have did that right there. And so can you look back and see that there was something that was a blunder? Now you could have learned from it. You could have, taken a couple steps back from it, but something that you saw as a blunder in your journey so far.
I think one of the biggest, this was early on in my career. I'm big. People will know that I am big on, I will not promote things. I mean, I have people reach out to me all the time and asking me to be an affiliate for something or to do something. I must know the product, and I have to use it on myself. And use it on myself usually for about 6 months before I'll even say something. So I'll tell companies all the time, like, I'm sorry, if you're not willing to wait for me to see the effects, the long-term effects, and if I'm not connected to it, then I'm like, I'm just not your girl, because my word really matters to me and what I tell my clients and what I tell people over Facebook. But I'm not going to mention a company, but it was early in my career. I kind of aligned myself with a particular company, not having done the research that I needed to do. And I feel like I told people to get this product, and then in the end, it was one that now today I would never in life ever. But what I did do was I told people, I went to all the people that I said, hey, try this out. And I said, I really have come to find out that this has not been good for my body. I would recommend, I said, I apologize for bringing this to you. But that was really early on. That was probably at least seven or 8 years ago. But it was early on. And it's one of those things that taught me a great lesson, that it was like, I don't want to have to go back, because of my integrity as a coach, and what I do means a lot to me. So I make sure that if I align myself with anything, that I am 100% on board with it.
So that speaks volumes. As a coach, as someone, as a person, that speaks volumes, because we do see a lot of people that align themselves with different programs and brands because of the brand and because of the money, the dollars and cents that's attached to it. And so, yeah, we do hear a lot of people saying, go left, try this, drink this. And then it's interesting because we'll hear a majority talking about one particular item and then a small minority talking about another item. And just because we hear that small minority talking about the other item, we think that item is not, valid. That item is not a good product. But in all actuality,
it's the better probably of the two.
It's most times, yeah, because it has been vetted by those little bit of people. It's been vetted. It's been, something that they've tried themselves. So I applaud you for that one.
Thank you.
Because not everybody would have went back.
I
apologize.
My word is, I don't, that anyone who knows me knows, and that's really why I do stay with really natural foods and things, because that's tried and true. And so, and for me, I'll use products that are now, I'll talk about products that are natural, like essential oils and things like that, just because that's God's pharmaceuticals. But I'm also very mindful of telling people what to look for and what not to look for, because all of that isn't, equal and the same. So, those are things that people have to be mindful of. So I would say that was my biggest blunder, was trying to align myself with something that I had not completely vetted for the 6 months. I mean, I had done it for maybe a month, but a lot of times you don't know what's going on with your digestive system, or is it really helpful, or what are the ingredients? And it was before I really had gotten in, before I had gone back to school, and I was kind of just, helping people through this process, and I was like, man, I will never do that again. So that was a blunder. And I'm thankful that I learned it early in my career instead of later. So.
Yeah, learning it early is always going to be that thing that makes you go, whew.
Yeah. Before I had hundreds of people that were following me, or and right now on Instagram, I have a pretty large following. So I always say, I don't want 8,000 plus people to say, oh, she told me to do this and it was wrong.
Exactly. I love that. That, like I said, that does speak volumes about you as a person and as a coach, because that's not really something that you can hear everybody say that that's what they would do. And that's the direction that they would go in. So I applaud you for that one. That was amazing. So guys, the reason why I brought this topic to you guys was because I need you guys to understand that when it comes to being the speaker, the author, the entrepreneur, there are so many different things that come into that your health and your wellness, your mind, body, and soul, every bit of you needs to be in alignment. Every bit of you needs to be working at its greatest potential, at its highest and fullest potential. Because if it's not, then we can't give everything that our clients really need and want from us. We can't go and speak on 30 stages and, eat whatever we want and expect, to be able to keep doing this for 5-10 years. It's not going to work.
The energy, you won't have it.
It's not going to work. At some point, your body is it's either going to tell you to sit down or it's going to sit you down.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's,
I say to myself, I wrote my book, the one that I have here, in 4 months. But that book was written in 4 months and I'd stayed up many nights and I did things, but it was because I ate really clean. I still worked out and I was able to keep my body healthy throughout the process. And I tell people all the time, my tagline is health and wellness meets passion and purpose. And because if you don't have health and wellness, you will never meet your passion and purpose. You will not have the energy to do it. So I agree with you, sis, 120%, that you have to focus on your health and wellness to be able to pursue your passion and purpose, whatever it is.
I love it. I love it. Oh, it fits perfectly. So I want you to let them know where they can get the book, and how they can get in contact with you, and give them the book information, how they can get in contact with you, and the other person's contact information again as well.
Okay, sure. So I'm Do All Things with Joy across most social media. So from Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. The only one that's different is Twitter, but I'm not really on Twitter, so you just might as well do the other ones. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna be perfectly honest with you on that one. So Do All Things with Joy for that. My book is available on Amazon. It is Share the Joy, 52 Weeks to Abundant Health. And Kimberly Joy Morgan is my name, the full government name that I've been given. And then let's see, what else did you say? My friend, her name is Girl Talk with Foe. So you can find her across all social media, even Twitter, as Girl Talk with Foe, F-O. And so she is phenomenal in that way. And I would say if you're looking for that person who can help you with your finances, she's the one.
Excellent. I love it, guys. So listen, this is the thing, guys. I said to you, I made a promise to you. Maybe you didn't hear it, but I'm going to tell it to you again. I made a promise to you that this was going to be your number one podcast for everything that leads you to being the successfully paid speaker and author and entrepreneur. And coming with that means I got to take care of myself. You cannot pour from an empty cup. If you attempt to, what you get is drained and exhausted and burnt out, and that is not being a success at all. So with that being said, I want you to make sure that you are living the best life for yourself. Why? Because again, we're building legacies, we're changing lives, and in order to do so, we have to start with ourselves. So guys, if you are a speaker and author, I would love to have you on the Here as a guest with me. Why? Because I get excited about having guests, guys. But I know that you have something to offer the world, and I want to make sure that you have the opportunity to let that information out and share it with the people that need it most. With that being said, you can go to bit.ly/Speakeasy Podcast in order for you to choose a date that works best for you to be a guest. And on top of that, we would love for you to tell us how this particular topic interested you. Maybe you liked it, maybe you didn't. We want to know. So leave us a review over on iTunes by going to bit.ly/Speakeasy Podcast Show, all lowercase. I am your host, Altavi Spelzer, the voice coach, professional speaker, certified life coach, Amazon bestselling author, and founder of the World Voice League. Guys, until next time, I appreciate you, each and every one of you, because without you, there would be no Speakeasy Podcast. See you guys, and don't forget to press it out.